Part 2. Rainbow Law and the Big Brown Snake. In the Dreamtime, the rainbow serpent carved out the landscape, waterholes, valleys, mountains, even carving out the Brisbane Valley to lay its eggs from the Great Divide. Primarily, the rainbow serpent has a connection to aquaculture and songline. The Rainbow Law Warriors. The rainbow serpent laid its eggs in the Brisbane Valley, and they are the descendants today. Maiwa, the Brisbane River, provided food and sustenance to the local tribes of the descendants. The spirits in the land, sea and sky have names. They can be cardinal directions, they can be the language. In spirituality and religion, a similar phrase is used in the Bible in John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So who are the law custodians? Who are the rainbow law warriors? Who do we consult within Aboriginal communities about culture and our place in time? Every generation has rainbow warriors. This story begins with the story passed on to me by my elder brother. But when I began to see records and places that connected the dots is when I dived deeper to see if maybe it were a true story, but hidden in plain sight. Rainbow warriors ascend when tribes connect. This story is the honest to God truth about the Hornets Nest massacre at Hornet Bank, Queensland, that sparked a 100-year-long frontier warfare from the North Cape Peninsula in the Torres Strait to the now New South Wales border.
Indigenous?
Yes, I am. Do you know the word Indigenous?
Yeah, I do.
Native to the
Yeah.
land. I was born here. Where's my land?
To set the scene, in 2025, there were more astro and enviro phenomena in southeast Queensland recorded than ever before. Not to mention, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology had no upgraded systems to keep up. When the arrival of Europeans in 1788 introduced the Poor Law, the London Society and scientific societies observing Aboriginal life on Australia, over 250 language tribes were still living traditionally, using navigation knowledge, hunter-gatherer methods, cultural trade, and skin and kinship systems. The Great Dividing Range starts at Duwan Island and stretches southeast along the entire coastline through Queensland into New South Wales, making a turn into Victoria. This Great Dividing Range holds walking trails already established by Aboriginal trade routes. Aquaculture, navigation, geographic knowledge, hunter-gatherer instincts, tribal law were connected through spiritual and intellectual understanding. Stories were used to pass on knowledge and understand how to survive, especially if travelling and during seasons. The Pleiades constellation, described in the story of the Seven Sisters.
Yeah, that's right. From this country, he went out to Cherbourg too, and he was talking up with Joe probably a couple of months before me. And then I went out there and asked him about this bunya song, and then he told me, he sang it to me and I learnt it. And he says, yeah, you know that boy, go and sing it on country where it comes from, to the people that survived with that bunya. Yes, we invited you fellas over. Yeah, you were invited. Yes, they can come over. Big feasts up our way, December through to March. It's a pretty good place to go. Look, where are you going to go for 4 months and get fed and looked after? That land looking after, that bunya tree looking after you. The bunya tree grows up to 100 metres, 60 to 100 metres in height. It lives.
Another story called Winner Dance of the Winds by Elmer Chris also depicts the spirits in the environmental elements. A Zenithcast Torres Strait belief is that caretakers look after uninhabited islands or sea country when the traditional owners are absent. Caretakers are not human and could appear as birds, sharks, or even as the wind. J. and Naja. A piece of ochre excavated from the Magan-jin in the Malankulanjali site in Arnhem Land, dated to 50,000 years old, as well as 10,000 artifacts, including 1,500 stone tools, to be at least 65,000 years old, according to the Australian Museum. As we begin to backtrack the story of the Rainbow Law warriors, we know that generations of tribal warriors pass on the knowledge of cultural IPs from thousands of years ago.
Because we're all in the same landscape and we all got to look after it, and we all put our heads together and we can do a good job. Because they did a great job for us, that's why all these things are still here today. But we've got to learn about them to look after them for the future generations. So this is one of them songs.
In 1790, at the New South Wales First Settlement, the Rainbow Warrior Pemulwuy from the Sydney Eora tribes resisted the British invaders for 12 years. In 1802, he died. Continuing after Pemulwuy's warfare is Windradyne, a Wiradjuri warrior. When Governor Thomas Brisbane declared martial law.
I said, when we say Talabilla, all right? And he goes, well, you can say that then. You know, you see it later. You see it, that's it, yeah, go on then. All right then, Talabilla you more. Galong go on then. This one here.
During the economy's earliest stock market to keep the settlement afloat, and during early settlement in Australia, the introduction of foreign livestock, diseases, rituals, laws, agriculture had a massive impact on native flora and fauna. In the 1800s, Aboriginal resistant leaders were ascending more and more. By the mid-1820s, there had been a rum rebellion, the beginning of a frontier warfare, pioneering explorers mapping out land, sea and country. But it's the IATSIS map we normally use today that was the work of Tyndall and Dr. Horton. However, the help from Aboriginal people during these important Australian historic discoveries are never acknowledged. Then in 1837, and at this time, all of East Coast Australia was still called New South Wales, and the first native police was created. When I got told the story of the Hornet Bank massacre, it was for me to learn why they called this southeast Queensland region a Hornets Nest. I knew there is a rugby league team called the Cherbourg Hornets, but now I also learned the record of accounts found in archives is a colonial invasion version and a secret narrative to hide the truth. Around this time of British expansion, Aboriginals were slowly being removed off country or silenced. There were numerous societies and official departments to enforce the invasion in Aboriginal communities. The industries operating into effect from basic government offices, whaling and sealing, pastoral activities, brewing and milling, from Hornet Bank Station to the old windmill in Brisbane. The stock trade had definitely expanded around this time, with stations within Ipswich, around Richlands, Durack, and through Brisbane into Caboolture and up to the Sunshine Coast. Organisations such as the Ipswich Aboriginal Protection Society were created to address the poverty of local Aboriginal people camping in Queen's Park, also called Deebing Creek Mission. Between finding Aboriginal trade routes and using these routes to expand British stock industries is where we find the rise of the Rainbow Warriors. The astronomical and environmental phenomena became a strong reminder in 2025. A planet alignment, a Category 1 tropical cyclone, a red blood quarter lunar eclipse, a comet meteor shower, a climate justice case, a red blood full lunar eclipse, a king tide. And what has all this got to do with the Brisbane to London trade route? Or what has the climate change have to do with Barumba, which means source of the western winds? The astro and enviro phenomena I caught in 2025 were all seen in the west or in a westerly position. The story told to me, I had also made a connection with the first weapons law in Australia, which was the Aboriginal Natives Use of Firearms Prohibition Act 1840, New South Wales. In 1857, settlement and pastoral activity moved northwest from Brisbane and into the Sunshine Coast region of the Gubbi Gubbi and Waka Waka tribal grounds. A killing had taken place at Hornet Bank Station, as one of the stations built to deliver business on the trade routes that were using Aboriginal walking trails and water systems. The killings had turned into a massacre of tribal clans in Waka Waka country. 2 tribal men fled the area and went to get help from neighbouring tribes. They travelled to Wandarrah country, where they warned them of the massacre that took place at Hornet Creek. A corroboree took place at Deebing Creek, and the Yuggarabul men had already encountered European colonisation, as the trade routes were using Aboriginal water system routes, which is all found in the creeks and rivers where the Wivenhoe Dam is today. This trade route also connects into the Yugambeh and Gold Coast region, including Bundjalung country. Once the men who escaped the Hornet Creek killings discussed this all in the corroboree, the Yuggarabul Waka Waka went to call the Yugambeh, Bundjalung and Gubbi Gubbi tribes so that they could all come together and start reclaiming tribal lands and sea. And they did. All the tribes went through the Brisbane settlements and the Sunshine Coast region. But if you look for this story, it will have a colonial narrative. The story was the Hornets Nest, and not long after, in 1897, the Aboriginals' Protection and Restriction of the Sale of Opium Act Queensland was created, and the Deebing Creek Mission was moved to Purga by the Salvation Army, where they also established the Barrambo Aboriginal Settlement, where today is called Cherbourg. Aboriginal trade routes still being used today by Australia. All the boundaries set up to keep Aboriginal people outside of town under the Police Towns Act of 1800s are still seen today, called boundary streets. And what has happened now to those trade routes? And now we have a Queensland Royal Mail route. In 1881, Thomas McIlroy, Premier of Queensland, obtained parliamentary authority to offer a mailing contract for a shipping company to run a service between London and Brisbane via the Suez Canal and Torres Strait. Buyers won the contract and formed the Queensland Steamship Company to run feeder routes to connect with. And this brings us to 1890s of the dangers.
This British India Steam Navigation Company vessel was a beacon of hope, linking decorated British colonial trade routes. As darkness loomed, the vessel struck an uncharted rock, a catastrophe that cleaved its hull wide open, leading to a quick descent beneath the waves. Within minutes, chaos erupted, survival became desperate, and heroic acts emerged. A stoker saved a mother and her infant while clinging to the debris. As day broke, rescue ships arrived, thanks to the bravery of local islanders who lent their craft and knowledge. This event, marking significant navigation reforms, serves a timeless reminder of the fragility of life and has since prompted crucial reef charting, ensuring safer voyages in the maritime world.
Our songline is not in writing. We don't have a tradition to mark our story. Our stories are lived in time. Our songline is not told to us. Our songline is lived. It's not like a story. It's passed down through time as a living song. And now I want to share a song that was taught to me when I was a little girl. I used to go to Wandarrah preschool in Inala, and so I want to share this and pass this on to the next generation and to my children and my children's children. Jackie was a nice young fella, full of fun and energy. Jackie was thinking of getting married, but the girl ran away, you see. Bulgari, Bulgari, your umki, dundiri, Bulgari me rang.